Yuji freaking Itadori is finally back.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for.
At the age of 83, yet looking young as ever, he is declared as humanity's nuclear deterrent, officially becoming the next Gojo. But before I explain how Yuji's half-human, half-curse existence made him the strongest sorcerer on Earth, we have to break down the current dynamic between the aliens and humans, which potentially can trigger an intergalactic war. We continue the Jujutsu Kaisen sequel right after uncovering the tragic past of the Luminians and what led them to seek refuge on Earth. Due to the incident of Maru getting his head tapped out to then, go full Shaolin monk on the old grade 1 curse user, a deep rift formed between the Sumerians and humans, respectively leading each group to hold their own meeting to decide the next move. From the humans' point of view, they believe that the Sumerians have been given way too much freedom, especially since Cross rejected Usami's request to keep Maru on Earth to get treated. This act was a showcase of uncooperation. However, my guy Usami believes coexistence is possible, so he defends the aliens, even going so far to erase the footage of Berserk Maru clapping Tsurugi. But let's be honest, after feeling Dabura's power in chapter 2, he just don't want that smoke. So he states that both Yuka and Tsurugi were defeated and that the envoy Maru had no choice but to join in. Boy literally helped bring the situation under control. But these bozos don't see the bigger picture. Remember, this council is the new frontier of the Jujutsu Society. Japan is responsible for all supernatural activity on Earth, and after Gojo literally eliminated the previous higher ups, along with sorcery being exposed to the rest of the world, the next generation of sorcerers had to work with ordinary humans to build this new council. But don't get me wrong, I believe some of them are actually Jujutsu sorcerers, and in fact we moved to one of them who likely is, because somehow he even brings up Maru's attack on poor Tsurugi. This introduction to his character highlights how he is running his own surveillance on the aliens despite Usami being in charge of their diplomatic relations. Now we can't say for sure, and it might be kind of far-fetched, but he may be related to Mei's family. And I can't lie, this man's hairdresser needs a raise. His shape pop's on point. But hey, he is getting too excited, stating that the Sumerians in effect have violated Article 7 of the Jujutsu law. However, here Usami channels his inner Higuruma and starts playing lawyer. And with an objection, why do I feel like an ace attorney? He rebuttals that there is no violation according to Hakari law. Yeah, this is the real thing. It's a rule in the Jujutsu regulations that permits sorcerers to hold commercial duels, which would often result in people gambling over it. So of course it had to be named after Hakari. This rule came into effect after Kenjaku exposed the Jujutsu sorcery to the world, and the whole culling game incident and all, which effectively ended the Jujutsu regulation article number 8 of secrecy, since well, everything was out in the open. I mean, what do you tell the people when multiple nukes hit Shinjuku? So Usami makes Maru and the Okutsu siblings sign a document that puts them under contract with him. Infighting and battles between contractors poses no issue under the Hakari Provision. However, this loophole has its limits, as now only bodyguards who are sorcerers recognized by the Jujutsu headquarters can enter commercial duels. But my guy Usami has come prepared to defend the Earth against these idiots. He states that Maru is a potential sorcerer who is hired by Usami as his personal bodyguard. Regardless, after a bunch of back and forths between these higher ups, Usami gets to the point. Why are they trying to oppose the Sumerians? The smallest ambers can create the biggest fire in diplomacy. One mishap can lead to war, insinuating they already been warned once when Jabaloma revealed Dabura to the humans in chapter 2. This was a showcase of power. So instead of nitpicking on minor transgressions, Usami points out that they need to reveal their hand and what they hold. A power so great that Dabura would think twice before waging war. A strength that will make it very difficult for the Sumerians to overstep their welcome. The Jujutsu Council need to put every effort in locating humanity's very own deterrent, Yuji Itadori. Yes, our theory has finally been confirmed. My guy has been alive all this time and was indeed the person Mahito was referring to back in chapter 7, where he's waiting for Yuji to pass through to the afterlife. Currently, Mahito is waiting in the passageway between the circulation of souls. Sadly for him, Yuji still hasn't crossed it yet. And not only that, Yuji is pretty much immortal, as Gege slaps a panel of him aura farming in the midst of a random crowd. Through the glimmer of what is revealed, nothing looks different about Yuji. Well, maybe he's a bit taller and, broader. However, remember, he's half curse and half human. For years, Kenjaku had been hopping from body to body, experimenting, all to create a new evolution of cursed energy. During the Meiji era, when a woman with a unique genetic makeup was discovered, that allowed her to give birth to the first half-human, half-cursed child. Kenjaku within the body of Noritoshi Kamo imprisoned them and had forcefully impregnated her, creating the 9-death painting womb. Many years later, he tried a different approach and took over the body of Kaori Itadori. Also, he could get some back shots by Sukuna's reincarnated brother. However, the intricate detail of what Kenjaku did to Yuji whilst he was in the womb is still unknown. All we know for sure is that Yuji was fashioned to be the ultimate vessel. Every muscle and bone within his body was beyond human from the moment he was born. After consuming Sukuna's finger, Yuji's body once again, through an evolution, adapted to Sukuna's curse energy, eventually making it his own. And to defeat Sukuna, Yuji even obtained more power by consuming the rest of his death painting womb brothers, pushing his cursed spirit lineage on a higher scale than his human side. We know curses do not age, as they are built by cursed energy and replenish their body with just that. Yuji's body is kinda in between and would likely age very slowly or not at all, explaining why he looks so damn young. However, why did Yuji choose to hide and escape from the eyes of the Jujutsu Council? Didn't he indirectly help create what it is currently today? Well, of course, the reasonable answer must be, my guy is depressed. Think about it. After the culling game ended, Yuji and Hana were needed to deal with the rest of the OG sorcerers that were awoken by Kenjaku. And after Gojo's death, he would be considered the strongest out of all of humanity. My guy is all alone, sitting at the very peak of sorcery. This mirrors his sense's entire life, as after Geto's betrayal, he was left all alone as well. Gojo did reveal that he just wanted to show Sukuna love because he can relate to him. People who are considered the strongest are often left alone at the top without love of their friends. Yuji lost his brother in Choso, Nobara is likely dead, and we all know Megumi died to a grade 3 curse. Yuji's entire generation might be gone for good, so he's walking as a solitude wolf, maybe waiting to fulfill his promise to Mahito and Sukuna after they reincarnate. In chapter 7, Mahito was also shown in limbo thinking of Yuji, and they aren't too different. So now Yuji is holding on to the past for a different future. Also, my boy is still human in some degree, so not only does he have to go through emotions of losing his friends and loved ones, all whilst being immortal, he is also treated as a weapon just like Gojo was. Japan would likely had tried to use Yuji multiple times to reach the stage they are in right now, one of the strongest countries in the world. Yuji likely had enough of all the BS politics. Instead of continuing to be a weapon, he just disappeared. However, it's not just the Earthlings struggling with the idea of peace. Even some of the Sumerians can't stomach it. Remember the dude that crossed Slaptop when he was just, 5? Yeah, his name is Oski. And he, after finally hitting the gym, thinks he earned a voice at the table. And so questions why Dabura, of all people, gets to make the final call. Especially when his people are the reason they are in this mess to begin with. That's when a new Lemurian elder steps in, explaining the unified council system they have adopted. Basically, certain individuals get more voting power than others. A system clearly based on strength, just like their planet's old custom. Both Maru and Cross are amongst the strongest, so their votes carry more weight. And they are the ones who backed Dabura's rise to leadership, giving him the power to veto the majority's vote. Yeah, it's basically the Sumerians version of the UN, and Dabura is America with the veto button. Oski pretty much calls it a dictatorship. The elder then tries to make him understand that with Dura gone, Dabura is the only one who can act as as a Sumerian chieftain. Being an outsider gives Dabura a detached, objective standpoint, allowing him to make decisions that can benefit them all without emotions getting involved. But this guy still hasn't forgiven Cross for that right hook. However, since they leveled up even more, he can't do shit, as the elder puts it straight to him. Forget Dabura, can you even beat the twins? This line shows the difference in power between the Sumerians. The twins under Dura's tutelage have grown immensely powerful, to the point that they have overtaken the average Sumerian in power levels and feats. In his annoyance, his old friend tried to calm him down, explaining that Dabura as ruler can only veto 2 times per debate. Since their entire council knows that Maru had been injured, the majority will once again vote for conflict. Until now, Dabura has been following his best friend's ideology to find neighbors and build healthy relationship by understanding each other. However, this brawnhead is having none of it. He believes that acting submissively will just cause a repeat of their past traumas. He sees Japan as a weak nation with no standing army, and hence should just be taken over. This is exactly why Usami wants to find Yuji Itadori, so bums like him can learn their place. If the Sumerians learned that someone like Yuji existed amongst the humans, the option of conflict wouldn't even be taken into consideration. The old man once again tries to be the voice of reason within the faction of those who want a more forceful relocation. He suggests that they should push for an autonomous region within Tokyo to migrate to, whilst Oski doubles down and says to achieve this, conflict should not be thrown out of the table. It is time for the Lumas to become the Diskunte and take what they want, or else they'll always be the ones who loses the most. This was something that even Cross had mentioned to Yuka in chapter 7. Speaking of, before the voting takes place, Cross confronts Jabaloma on why for the past councils he had abstained from his voting regarding the question of coexistence with the Earthlings. But my loopy-eared Tengen-looking uncle Uno reverses the question to then tell him that he will just copy Cross's answer. Unlike the other members of the council, Cross has the power of 10 votes, and together with Jabaloma, they can overturn any consensus. So he had entrusted his own vote to him, holding him in high regard. Cross is baffled and so questions why Jabaloma does not have a will of his own. But as we saw in the flashback, this guru has ascended into nirvana and started spitting some scripture. My boy, relinquishing your will is also an act of willpower. Honestly, this guy's a G. As these guys make their vote, Cross thinks back to his time on Earth and on Tsurugi's words, on the lost boy, on the will of the dying Yuka, who wants to break the cycle of hatred. Finally, on Dura and his message for peace. With that, the time has come for the result. Yep, a drum roll, please. Coexistence! Yeah, Cross and Jabaloma both voted for peace, revealing that Yuka's words did reach his heart at the end of chapter 7. He allowed the fight to take place between Maru, the Grade 1 sorcerer, and Tsurugi to gauge the Earthlings' power and to give a reason for the Sumerians to act. However, Tsurugi's words, along with Yuka's conversation with him, changed his perception of humanity. That is why he acted as his twin brother, so he can personally experience the Earthlings' true nature. This mirrored his own past, where he lost his whole village over the Maru ores as he relates to the humans and loss they would incur if there would be an all-out war. Moreover, Cross remembers Dura's teaching that a village or town is made up by the dreamed up ideals of someone from the past. So an all-out war would make them no better than the Diskuntes who took everything from them. But this does not sit right with all of the other Sumerians, as Oski argues against this decision. He really wants conflict. My guy just wants to go in there and just claim his home. He wants to just straight up kick out the Japanese from their house and say, I have suffered under the boots of the Disconte, and now I need to channel Theodore Herzl and save our life.
What the hell are you talking about?
Oski even tries to invalidate the final consensus since Maru's not present there, but Jabaloma and Cross represents him and saying that Maru had sided with coexistence from the start. But watch him take this decision in his own hands and screw everything up for both parties. There's always that one guy, and when he hopes that Dabura would side with him, he says, No. Dabura states that they can invade at any time if they need to after a major disagreement with the humans break out, but once that happens, there's no going back. He even reminds them that they left Sumeria in search of neighbors, so it's just better to get to know each other first. We then go back to Earth, where both parties hold a meeting. The aliens explain their situation to the humans and the reason they were exiled. However, Usami had to put two and two together to reach the conclusion that Dabura could have been the one who had defeated them in the first place. He's really got PTSD from chapter 2 that he can't fathom Dabura being defeated. And so, after a brief introduction to the Lumalians' belief of the Kalians, Usami proposes to host a dinner between the Earthlings and the aliens. This would give them the opportunity to build better relationships, which is the perfect idea to start getting along with each other. A dinner with both parties will help them learn each other's cultural differences, where they can both come to a neutral agreement. So Jobaloma sends Cross and Maru to make the preparations, whilst Usami asks for Yuka and Tsurugi. With the decision to have a takoyaki feast, preparation have started for Japan and the Sumerians to come together for a dinner party. And here, I believe, is where something will go wrong. Oski will likely create a conflict between the Earthlings and Sumerians due to the past experiences with the Diskuntes, with the hopes to take over Earth. And once that happens, Yuji will have no choice but to join the humans and defend his home planet against them. However, I don't believe they will be the final villains. They will come together and face a greater threat, i.e. the Diskuntans. Their chief does not seem like a person who would let go of the Maru ores, let alone some extra pure ones that Dura found. He might chase them all the way to Earth with his own set of ores. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and if you want more peak fiction, then make sure to watch this video next.